Can you imagine how your whole brain and spirit and body is going to be immediately nourished the moment you put on the side the ton of anger you're carrying over 35 years or 30 years or 60 years? Your body will go, ah, I love you. I thank you. I feel so much more different. We are carrying a heavy suitcase or a heavy bag from the supermarket for 10 minutes and where we feel it. Our muscles are tense. Our mind cannot stop thinking about anything else other than this muscular discomfort, and we keep anticipating the moment we can put it down. Imagine carrying that pain for decades or the anger for decades. That's how you nourish yourself, by letting go of what is unloving, what is heavy on you, and engaging in habits, in feelings and thoughts, in self-awareness that nourishes you internally and externally.
This is the Two Healers podcast, where we explore health and wellness through a holistic and integrative lens. I'm your host, Dr. Adri Bryant, bringing you insightful conversations with experts from around the world who are transforming the way we approach well-being. Hello everyone, today I have the joy of speaking with a truly multidimensional woman. She is Maria Micha, a clinical mental health counselor, hypnotherapist, nutritionist, and a healer who integrates the Anagenesis Method, shamanic wisdom, and conscious parenting and relationship work into her practice. She has decades of experience on this, and she is the author of an upcoming book that is launching in just a few weeks. So I can't wait to bring you awesome insights from her. Maria, welcome. Thank you very much. I'm so honored to have you here.
Thank you so much, Dr. Adri, for inviting me. I'm really pleased to be here for this interview. I'm mainly a clinical mental health counselor, and I was adding everything else that you mentioned as I was working with clients, and I realized that there was something missing from the science of counseling. The experiential part, the fact that our spirit is not taken into account, that people are a lot more than just their cognition, their thoughts. And through changing our thoughts, we can change our feelings. But it's a much longer process. And in the beginning, it feels more superficial. Yet through adding more experiential, intuitive techniques such as hypnotherapy or shamanic journeys, then you go a lot deeper, and the changes you can make in 1 hour are stronger, forever changes. It's not superficial. The fabric of your existence has changed.
What called you to integrate all these elements? Because there is shamanism, there is nutrition, therapy, but there is a Maria Micha practice. So what called you to integrate all these practices into one?
It's the fact that I felt that just the science of counseling was not enough to address and encompass the beauty and the multifaceted nature of humanness. We are a lot more than just our cognition, and counseling mainly addresses our cognition. It uses words to change the way we think about ourselves, which will eventually change the way we feel and the way we behave. This is what cognitive behavior therapy is really based on. You change the cognition, and it will change the feelings, and it will change the behavior. However, we seem to be forgetting that the psychology on one definition the science of psychology is the study of the mind, the brain, the soul, and the spirit. However, the first psychotherapists at the end of 1800s, they were terrified because they were called pseudoscientists. And they were focusing on bringing their science, psychology, into greater academic credit. As a result, all their experiments focused on the mind and the brain, and the reason for that is that it's replicable. You can bring results that are statistically significant, and other therapists, other scientists can use them. Their main focus was to bring psychology out of this bubble that other scientists were obviously threatened by psychologists had created, that it's not a real science, it's pseudoscience. And unfortunately, this trend continued for the next 150 years. And we have almost completely forgotten that we're more than just our thoughts. We come to this world with spirit. That's the reason you see one baby being so calm and peaceful, sleeping through the night, looking so wise. Some children have a very nice temperament, and some children come to this world feeling very, very anxious and having trouble adjusting. Of course, it's the environment. We know that the environment plays a very, very big role, but the nurture, what you bring, the nature of what you bring into this world, the psyche that comes through another realm already has spirit. And when we ignore it, we cannot really give the best to our clients. We cannot bring the healing to the event, to the level that it could actually be helpful and life-changing for the clients.
How do you think that you can use the hypnotherapy to make a positive impact into the behavior of the client when they are not open-minded?
Well, if they're not open-minded, I will try my best to explain and use science and bring up certain research and explain that hypnotherapy is very safe and hypnotherapy can help you access your subconscious mind. There are people when they're being hypnotized, I've had this happen to me, they have re-experienced their birth, their own birth, because there was some trauma. The water broke, the umbilical cord was wrapped around her neck, and she was experiencing all the trauma and the fear of that moment, and she needed to go there to release it. Hypnotherapy takes you to different levels, and it usually takes you to the place exactly where healing needs to take place. As we're going through life, we don't realize when we're traumatized. We might think that a teacher or a bully at school at grade 3 was the reason that we don't have confidence. But through hypnotherapy, you can go to a completely different place where a simple comment from your mother who said, "You cannot have another cookie, enough," is what has created this limitation in the way you perceive yourself and others. I would give them the evidence, I would give them the research, I would ask them to try it before they dismiss it. I have had clients who were resistant to it in the beginning, and these are usually people who are very cerebral. They're scientists or they're lawyers, they're doctors. They're people who work a lot with their mind, who believe in the rational deductive reasoning, and they're scared to go even deeper because in their lives they have not really accessed their subconscious mind. They even ignore its existence, and sometimes the range of feelings and emotions they allow to themselves is also very limited. So they might be feeling the basic emotions: love, happiness, anger, fear. But there are many, many more emotions that one can feel. If I remember correctly, there are about 350 words that describe different tonalities and different gradients and qualities of emotions. For them, it would be a very scary wave to go into this world of endless emotions. However, with time, the majority of them will try hypnotherapy, and it changes them, it shifts them.
So for that reason, I think that it's scary to be inside of this process because we don't allow ourselves to feel, right? We have so many suppressed emotions, and it can be scary to feel them again.
It is very true. We go through life being scared of ourselves. And a lot of us go through life being scared of the magnitude of what we can create and what our thoughts can produce. That's the reason that fear works so well with people. A lot of institutions from school, they use a lot of fear. Parenting still entails some fear. Government, they create fear so that people will keep themselves in check. And we need to be aware. We need to have self-awareness. We need to understand when we're living in any environment, in our family, in our school, work, or society, that my freedom ends when yours starts. And finding the boundary between my space and my freedom and your freedom is not very easy. Self-awareness, empathy, and care for others can bring us closer to this respectful synergy and existence without needing fear to be imposed on us, that we know the boundaries and we don't cross them. However, that means that there's going to be a cultivation of the soul, a cultivation of the spirit. And schools, families, and governments, societies, they don't spend a lot of time on that. There are still some spiritual constitutions, whether it's churches, temples, meditation centers, wherever people feel called to, that will create and cultivate this awareness. It would be lovely if governments and schools would join this force, this energy, where we try to enhance people's self-awareness and understand through empathy how to behave for themselves so that they're benefited through their behavior, through their thoughts and their feelings, but also how to respect others without needing fear to control us.
Would you say that this therapy is for retrain? It will help you to retrain your mind and change the way that you approach some things?
Definitely. You are retraining your mind to think from a completely different perspective. You are healing yourself. You are understanding your soul's purpose on this earth from a different viewpoint. But you also start having empathy for other people, even the people that have hurt you. And I'm not saying for one moment that we should tolerate abuse, not at all. But hurt people will hurt people. The people who have hurt us the most, they have been hurt by someone else, and they were not able to make better use of those painful feelings they experienced in order to turn them into wisdom and treat others in a loving, empathetic, compassionate, but also empowering manner. The therapy that I give to people through the Anagenesis Method that I have devised through 30 years of clinical experience, and as I was adding different modalities to the science of clinical mental health counseling in order to help people the most, it will open your mind. It will allow you to forgive yourself, not for the mistakes that you have made only, but also for allowing yourself to be in situations that have hurt your spirit and your soul. And later you will forgive others, not for them, not to let them off the hook. This is the reason people don't want to forgive. We forgive others so that we are going to be free. If I'm angry with a teacher in the 3rd grade, that teacher has no idea that I'm still angry with her. I feel it every day. I carry it every day. I'm waking up and I'm carrying 20 pounds on my shoulder for the teacher, another 50 pounds for my mother, 60 pounds for my father, my brother, my sister, my friends. And now, as I'm getting up, I have a ton to carry, on top of having to take care of me, take care of my dependents, take care of my elderly parents, go to work, be at my best at work, help, be an integral member of society. It is an unbearable burden. People don't understand that if they put on the side, it is loving for them. It is liberating for them. What I'm offering is a different perspective to see ourselves, others, and life that is so healing. And trauma is trauma, pain is pain. Of course, we'll create space to heal that as well. And I'm doing this with my clients. But beyond that, it is about releasing what is no longer loving to you. We go through life holding on to things. I know people who still remember something that their mother-in-law did to them 55 years ago. The mother-in-law is dead for 20 years and that person is in her 70s and they cannot let go. And every time they go back and they recount the event, they get angrier and angrier and angrier. And that person is losing life, is losing the life force of joy, of connection, of being in a blissful energy. And of course, I know that we cannot be in a blissful energy 24/7. That's not what I mean. Human life is stressful, is difficult, but being able to access it for most of the time, or embracing the challenges, like literally hugging the challenge and saying, I'm not enjoying this. I'm not enjoying the difficulty that has come up, but universe, can you please help me? My community, can you please come to my aid so that I can get the wisdom through this challenge? Every challenge that comes our way is there to upgrade us to the next level. And the next level of consciousness and self-awareness will make our lives more rewarding, effortless. We're connecting more with our true power and our true essence. Our soul has essence. We came here for a purpose. We wanted to experience something, to touch other people's lives, and we forget. Being angry and being upset and focusing only on everything that is difficult, we're getting further and further away from our soul's existence. And that's what creates physical illnesses, mental illnesses, a disjointed existence, and very unrewarding relationships.
Where is the point where the Anagenesis method meets intergenerational trauma?
Very interesting question. You see, I was raised by parents who were raised by parents, and my grandparents were raised by their parents, and sometimes we deal in 2025 with a behavioral trait that was instilled in my great-grandparents in mid 1800s. We don't realize that. Through hypnotherapy, we can see the trend. Through clinical mental health counseling as well, you can see the trend because you get the history of this generation, the previous generation, and the grandparents, the great-grandparents. But also through shamanism, through shamanic journeys, you can really journey into the past. I journey for my clients, but I also teach them how to journey themselves, and you can see the most painful trends. I'm going to talk about one of my clients. I'm going to change everything about the client so that the person is unrecognizable. She's 55 years old. She's from the Netherlands, and she's married with 3 children. And she's having so much trouble with working and obligations and how to enjoy life and how to enjoy work, although she adores her job. So when we journeyed back, we realized that her ancestors had to fight, had to migrate, had to defend themselves. They were never even physically safe. They were intruders in their country. They had migrated that would come to the village and would burn everything. And sometimes they would bury their furniture in the land in order to save the furniture. So there was a very strong scarcity. And work was never for joy, it was for survival. So their whole existence was built around surviving and fighting people who truly wanted to harm them for no reason. When she realized that, she was a lot more able to shed it, to let it go. Of course, this is a very strong transgenerational trend and traumatic experience that still creeps in every now and then, but now she can see it and she can consciously decide to release it. And when we keep releasing consciously through shamanic journeys, through hypnotherapy, at some point that release becomes automatic. And you no longer have to do the work. It's just there.
Do you think that the Bioneuroemotion is applicable in the Anagenesis method and the hypnotherapy to change not just the behavior of the people, but help them to overcome challenges in their healing journey?
So every time I have a different thought, different neurons, different cells in my brain connect. If I believe that 8 plus 8 equals 12, and you tell me actually it's 16, that brings together different neurons. And now I have a completely different constellation of neurons that are telling me 8 plus 8 equals 16. And if I bring this example to life, if I believe, because my parents have taught me that every person that hurts me, I need to be angry with, I need to keep remembering that pain and getting more and more angry every time, the moment you come along and you give me a completely different container of thought and feeling that says, that was a hurt person, they didn't have another way of behaving towards you, Maria. Imagine you can let go of that anger, put it on the floor, throw it into the ocean, let the waves and the salt of the water get rid of it. Now I have a completely different constellation of neurons in my brain that say, I put my joy, my blissful existence above any anger, and I just release it in my favor for my benefit. And from that new constellation of neurons, we through neuroscience and functional MRIs that new constellation of neurons are being produced of a similar level of thought. Now I have hope. Now I'm empowered. The moment I'm empowered, I have neurons come together saying, hey, now that I'm empowered, maybe I can change my job. Now that I feel so much better, I don't have to carry 1 ton of anger over all the people who have hurt me in my life. Maybe I can be a different parent. Maybe I can smile more. Maybe I can feel more confident. And that's how people change. So yes, shamanic journeys, hypnotherapy, it changes the chemistry in our brain. And if we keep rehearsing it and repeating it, then it becomes a new way of thinking and feeling. And we need to remember that everything is interconnected. Whatever I feel in my brain is going to travel down the spinal column and is going to activate my hormonal centers. And my hormonal centers, my adrenal glands, that are these little glands sitting on my kidneys, they're going to send out less adrenaline. So I'm going to be less agitated, or less cortisol, so I'm going to be less stressed. And that sends biofeedback to my whole body. So now my muscles are relaxing. Now I have more endorphins, the good hormones. Now my body is more supple. And again, it goes back to my brain and I feel more inspired. I feel calmer. I have more love. When I'm stressed, when I'm angry, I cannot be kind. When I'm stressing to go from point A to point B, when I'm so busy, there is no space for kindness, hence road rage. Everyone is so angry because they're so focused on going to a particular destination at a particular time. There is no space to be kind to anyone else around us. Everyone is an enemy. We're back in the jungle 50,000 years ago where there are tigers, and we see tigers everywhere coming at us, and that's why people get so angry.
That's very, very interesting. We were talking a lot about hypnotherapy and Anagenesis Method and all these different things. Can you explain what anagenesis is and how it supports emotional healing and transformation? Because this is not a term that is very common, not like hypnotherapy, right?
Anagenesis is a Greek word, and I'm Greek, so I love using some Greek words, and 43% of the English language consists of Greek words. Anagenesis means rebirth, to rebirth ourselves. And it's a method that I have devised, and it consists of clinical mental health counseling, hypnotherapy, nutritional advice, shamanic journeys, corporate training for people who need it in their work, also energy healing and energy reading. And it helps people rebirth themselves, rebirth the way that they feel about themselves, the way they feel about life, the world. They create a new sense of self, a new awareness, and their behavior is reconstructed, is renewed. It is really a therapy of renewal and rebirthing our true selves.
And what you will say to someone who is skeptical of hypnosis and shamanism and all these therapies, or has never tried it?
I would tell them that, first of all, always try something once before you let it go, especially when that element is not dangerous or threatening to you. I would also tell that person that our ancestors were doing a lot more intuitive work than we do nowadays. Science has saved lives and is still saving lives, has transformed our world. We're living in homes that are fully equipped with everything we need. We have the internet, we have electricity, we have working bathrooms and showers, we have medicine, we have surgeons for every single little part of our bodies. But we have forgotten our intuitive wisdom. And I think that intuitive wisdom is our birthright. Again, psychology and human existence is not just thoughts and behavior. It's our spirit, it's our mind, it's our brain, it's our body, it's our soul. And we need to address everything to have physical health, emotional health, and mental health. When we address everything that makes us, but also every aspect of our lives that makes our body and mind and soul malfunction, then we're going to have the best possible outcome. We need to address all of us. Even human physical illnesses are the result of anger or fear or feeling alone, feeling isolated. And I'm not blaming anyone who's unwell. Not at all. I'm just saying that apart from the medical assistance you get from your doctors, just try to release what is no longer loving to you. When we keep getting energy from our brain, our liver, our heart, our gut, our pancreas, our muscles. And with time, if we don't start generating enough energy through the way we feel, through sleeping well, through eating well, drinking clean drinks, avoiding alcohol, excessive alcohol, then those centers that we keep stealing energy from every day to go through our day, at some point will say, I don't have anymore. No one is punishing us, our body's not punishing us, the universe is not punishing us. It is just a mathematical problem. If I wake up and I have 100 units of energy, and by 12 noon, I have used 150, I still need to go through my day. So now I start taking energy from centers of my body and my mind that have some sort of energy, but at some point they will be bankrupt. And how do we generate more energy? We have loving thoughts. We are kind to ourselves. We don't get excessively stressed. We are kind to others. We believe that every obstacle that comes our way is there for us, is there to help us understand, resolve, go from one grade in life to the next. The same way you graduate from second grade to third, you go through life stages, developmental stages. And if I am 50 and I'm using the same tools I had at 15, I'm probably not going to be very successful the way I transition through developmental stages. And then what's it saying? Disappointment, isolation, anger, difficult relationships. I'm not happy with myself. I get depressed. I get anxious. And then later, I either break down on a mental level or a physical level. Or both.
How did your own healing journey shape the way you work with others?
Wonderful question. The first time I went to a therapist, I was 9 years old, and I was terrified of the dark. I come from Greece, and Greece is a very religious country, so we have religious studies every day for 1 hour. But I had a very passionate religious teacher who started talking us about devil, and that made me very scared of the dark. So my mother, thank God, took me to a therapist. It was not very easy to find a therapist. I'm born in 1974, so in 1983, it was not the easiest thing in the world to find a therapist in Athens, but she did. And I had 3 sessions and I was completely cured. I was never scared of the dark ever since. But it also allowed me to find my profession. I was in love with psychotherapy and I decided right there and then I'm going to become a therapist. Of course, don't believe me. You're young, you're going to change a million times. But I didn't. I was very focused and that's what I did. So my healing journey started very early and it's ongoing. I'm still having a therapist from the time I was 18 until now. It's a weekly appointment. If things are tough, it's twice a week. I'm also having a supervisor because I'm seeing clients in case there is an issue or to make sure that I'm always doing what is best for my clients. And it never ends. The healing journey never ends. But as I was going through my personal healing experience, I understood that we need more. We are more. We have spirit. We have a soul. And therapy is lovely. It's amazing. Medicine also for people who need psychotropic medication is good for them. Yet we need to address our spirit. We need to address our intuition. We need to discover our intuition, because our intuition has so many answers. And indigenous people knew that. Our ancestors 1,000, 2,000 years ago knew that. But then the science, the emergence of science and the schooling system, and sometimes governments that don't want us to feel so much because we have more power when we're intuitive. And they want us to believe in them and let them guide us. That brought the focus on enhancing our intuition, understanding our own power to a minimal degree. So I believe that when you have the science of counseling, and when you do use other techniques, whether it's hypnotherapy or shamanic journeys or energy healing or energy reading, I also love Reiki, you're going to have the best possible result. And that will upgrade and uplift your physical health, your mental health, your relationships, and the way you relate to the whole world, your relationship in your human existence. What do I believe about my human existence? What is the significance that I give my human existence? I'm not talking about narcissism. I'm not talking about believing that I'm the most important person in the world. Definitely not. I would like to give you this example. I use it with my clients sometimes. Let's imagine a woman who's 95 years old in rural China and has spent all of her life working on the earth and producing vegetables for people to eat and be nurtured by. And she has given birth to 15 children, and she has, at 95, when she's just about to take her last breath, she has maybe 50, 60 grandchildren. And now let's compare this with a woman who has lived in New York. She was involved in politics, has had a very rich life. She has 3 kids, 8 grandchildren, and she's also 95, just about to take her last breath. Very difficult lives, but they can be equally rich because they have reached and they have touched people's lives. The woman in China has probably touched the lives of her kids and her grandkids and her husband, her community, her neighbors, her family of origin members. The woman in New York has probably touched many people's lives through her political presence and the laws she has helped to be enforced and help others. It doesn't matter what you do in your lifetime. It doesn't matter if you have a PhD or if you have just gone to school. It matters what you do with your energy. What do you do with your life force? How do you make sense of your existence in your earthly life? Do you like yourself? Do you like your behavior? Do you like what you produce? Are you kind to everyone around you? Do you uplift them when they need some help? Because we all do. We're all going to break. We're all going to need a helping hand. That's all that matters.
I totally agree with you. And now that we are talking about intuition and spiritual energy and internal magic, how would you describe shamanism, and what are the myths that you think that need to be broken around the shamanic world or shamanism definition? Because some people, when they hear, it's a shamanic healer, they are imagining that you are going to make like black magic on them. So how would you define it for the people that maybe they don't know too much about this to understand what is this about?
I'm sure that there are shamans that do harm. They get paid to do harm. I don't know how to do that. I was not taught how to do that. What I was taught to do is to use the power of the intuitive wisdom that's around us. And Carl Jung, one of the most celebrated psychotherapists of the 20th century, he did talk about the collective subconscious mind. And this is where all the intuitive wisdom is held, and how we all communicate with each other, whether we realize or not. And we enter the collective subconscious mind through hypnotherapy, through meditation, but also when we're asleep, because our spirit travels it's almost an astral journey, and can get information from the collective subconscious mind. We feel other people's energy. Sometimes we haven't spoken with someone for a long time, but we feel that person is angry with us, or the person is sad, that we might call, and our intuition is most likely going to be confirmed, especially if we're self-aware. So what I would tell that person is that you need to find a shaman that you trust. You need to also trust life. When we are anticipating a challenging and a harmful experience in life, whether I'm just about to get in my car and I'm imagining that I'm gonna be involved in a very bad accident, or whether I'm going to find a shaman to heal me, and I believe that this person is going to do black magic on me, that probably means that I don't trust life. And all these possibilities are a possibility. It is likely that if I go in my car, I will have a car accident. But what do? I make sure that my car is in good condition. I make sure that I'm not texting and driving. I make sure that I look around. I'm not tired. I'm not under the influence of alcohol. So I minimize the chances of an accident as much as I can, but there are other people around me. And there is also fate, and there is also life that needs to happen to me for me to receive a lesson, or for me to meet certain people. And I have to trust that part. I do whatever I can. I try to ensure that the conditions of any situation I'm entering are as positive and good as possible. But beyond that, I will allow myself to trust life. I have to trust life. The same way, if I'm finding a shaman, I will do some research, I will ask around, and I will trust life that this is the right person for me. There is a saying, when you're ready, the right teacher will arrive. So, are you ready? That is the big question. Is your soul ready to receive the healing? When you are ready, and when you radiate this to the world, the correct person will be there. One more addition to this is that life always has good and evil. It is the constant perpetual battle amongst people, amongst energies. We will encounter difficult people and difficult situations. Our strength, our soul strength, our spirit strength, our cognition, our enhanced cognition will help us and protect us from it. Would invite people to believe in themselves, to believe in life, to connect with the outcome that you want, not the outcome that you're afraid of. When we're seeing our worst nightmare in front of us, I'm going to seek the help of a shaman. That shaman is going to do black magic to me. What we don't understand is that we're creating a magnetic field around us that will attract exactly that. Whatever you're afraid of, you will attract, because fear is the most powerful emotion that any human being can experience. It is stronger than love. Why? Because we need to survive, and fear will help us survive. We see a tiger, fear comes up, we run. But when fear is instilled in everything and is activated about every activity in my life, now I'm not in my body, I'm not in my spirit, I'm not in my energy. So we need to manage our fear, and I think fear is managed through self-awareness, but also through faith and trust. Trusting life, trusting myself, trusting the world, and trusting the shaman.
How does shamanic work show up in your sessions?
Not everyone is open to shamanic journeys, but the people who are, we will journey together. I will sometimes journey for them. So I perform soul retrievals. In counseling, we call it dissociative disorder. We dissociate from the world, we dissociate from feelings. People have been through a severely traumatic experience, such as watching an abusive encounter or being abused themselves. They will dissociate. They often tell you that I was hovering above my body, watching this thing happening to me, and I couldn't understand how this was possible. So the soul goes up, the spirit goes up, because what the body is experiencing is very difficult, so the soul goes out to protect itself. However, when the soul needs to come back, there's still so much trauma, the soul might not completely come out. So you're walking in the world, but your soul and your spirit is a little bit separate from you, which means you're not yourself. You're experiencing anhedonia, which is the ability to derive pleasure from previously pleasurable activities. You're depressed. You don't feel good in anything you do. Your relationships are toned down. You're not interested in people. You cannot experience empathy. Sometimes people don't experience pain in their bodies because they're so separate from them. So with therapy, clinical mental health counseling, we have a way of dealing with this, and sometimes we'll offer psychotropic medication. But in shamanism, the shaman goes on a journey. It's called soul retrieval, where I go out and I bring those pieces of the soul that were disconnected. I actually see the event that has led to this disconnection without my client having ever said anything to me on that. And then I bring them back, and they go back into that person's soul. But the person has to meditate on that. No matter what you do, if you do it once, it's not going to bring results. I go for yoga once. Okay, it was wonderful. My body loved it. My muscles are activated a little bit. If I go again in a year, I'm not going to bring the benefit that I want to my body and my mind. Whatever a shaman does, whichever journey the shaman goes on and brings pieces back to you or resolves difficult energy lines, cuts off transgenerational trauma, the person who has received the healing, whether it is psychotherapy, shamanic journeys, hypnotherapy, energy healing, corporate training, you need to do something with that. You need to rehearse it. That's why we go to school for 12 years. We keep rehearsing. We keep learning and we keep rehearsing, and then we become masters of it. So a shamanic journey once can be life-changing, but if you want to enter a completely different existence, a way of feeling and being in this world, you need to rehearse things yourself. You need to work on it yourself.
In your experience, because we are talking about people need working on themselves, what blocks most people from accessing their own inner guidance or their own intuition?
For once, there isn't enough talk about that. I cannot tell you how much I had to fight with myself and take control of my fear of introducing myself to the world as a spiritual psychotherapist. I was scared that my scientific community would come after me, would try to take away my credentials, would try to dishonor me. It is difficult. It is difficult to say, I want to integrate science with intuition, because no one is talking about it. Intuition and intuitive practices don't have the platform that they deserve in order to help the world. And I thank God that my intuition won, and I decided that I want to give the world what I think helps people the most, which is an amalgam of science and intuitive wisdom. People need to go through this awakening, the awakening of the soul. And the way I see the world at this point, it's as if there are two different camps. There's the science camp, which is very valid and we need it, and there is the intuitive camp. They have to merge. We need both. People who feel that something is missing from their lives, that they want more, they need to understand themselves more, find someone, do some research, ask around. There are a lot more people nowadays than there were 15, 20 years ago. But also on a societal level or a governmental level, we need to create space for intuitive healing. Probably not by itself, probably combined with intuition. But we need to bring this in our lives. Whether it's meditation, whether it's shamanic journeys, whether it is spiritual retreats where I actually offer these, and people that are meditating for 5-6 hours every day, They're sharing whatever they have seen in their meditation, their shamanic journeys. There is a lot of love being exchanged in those sacred spiritual circles. And then people come out of it knowing where they want to go next, but also having this community. We don't have community. In bigger cities, in highly advanced and technologically advanced areas, we don't have community. People are so busy with their lives, having to pay the mortgage, having to pay the car loan or the lease, putting their kids through school, having to cook, taking them to doctors. I understand how busy life can get and how we're struggling by the end of our day to just go to bed and get 6, 7, 8 hours of sleep. Yet community will create, along with intuitive wisdom and self-awareness, a completely different springboard from where to project ourselves into our busy lives. And at some point, I do hope that people will get less busy. We'll spend more time with our children. Our children are lonely. Our children are raising themselves most of the times, or when we're with them, we cannot be kind. There are so many things on our mind and so many worries and fears and bills to pay. I know people who downgraded their life so they could be more with their children. They could be calmer themselves. They went from a 5-bedroom apartment to a 2-bedroom apartment, from a very big expensive car to a much smaller and older car. From paying private schooling to go to public schooling, but as a result, they have more time with themselves and their children. They talk more, they embrace more, because that busyness is gone, and now emotions can come through.
And that's the problem, no, with all the transgenerational trauma. Now you are an adult, and all your issues come from mostly your childhood, I think.
Definitely. Your childhood, your parents' childhood, your grandparents' childhood, it can go up to many, many generations. I could be dealing with a fear 5 generations before had, and it has gone from one generation to the next and has trickled down to me.
Now that we are talking about this, you work with parenting and relational dynamics. How does healing our own inner child shift the way that we show up as parents or partners?
When I love myself, when I know myself, I'm going to be a more loving and more empathetic parent and partner. I have more space to see other people's pain and to also work on other people's happiness. The freer I am, if I don't carry anger, if I don't carry the pain from all my life, then I am lighter in my interaction with everyone around me. Can you imagine how much energy I need to carry this ton of anger and pain that I have gone through in my life, and then I'm carrying all this weight? How am I going to hug my child? I will be carrying this and hugging my child, or I am hugging my child and I still feel the pain. And what I see a lot in parenting is that from a very, very early developmental stage of our children, we start seeing malicious intent in them. I had a client, I think she had some serious mental health concerns, but she didn't want to work on them, unfortunately. But she had a 2.5-month-old baby, and she was certain that the baby was manipulating. I have never seen a more nervous, a more agitated baby. The baby could not find any peace, was constantly moving in a very erratic way because his mother could not see his beauty. His mother was blaming him emotionally for crying, for not drinking milk, not breastfeeding, not taking the bottle. She was seeing that the baby had malicious intent towards her because this mother had not healed her own trauma, her own childhood. That's how, when we're freer, we create love around us. We don't see malicious intent in our 2-month-old, but we see a baby that's trying to find life, trying to understand how life is working, sometimes knows how to breastfeed, sometimes has a tummy ache, it has nothing to do with the mother, or sometimes needs more love, or needs more peace, needs more quiet. We need to try different things. But when I do everything through a filter of, you are trying to manipulate me, you don't love me because I have my own unresolved trauma, I cannot be the loving agent that you need in your life as a child. And I cannot create the safe emotional environment where you as a child are going to flourish.
What's one pattern that you often see in modern relationships that you feel needs to be unlearned or transformed?
Oh, it's so many. Entitlement. Humans nowadays are entitled. Everyone says, I deserve better. You do. You do deserve better. But I want you to see what you're offering the world. If you're approaching any situation, any interaction through fear, through anger, through malicious intent, unfortunately, this is what you're going to get back. The other issue that I see a lot is how we don't want to go deeper in a relationship. Oh, you brushed me off. You don't love me. Maybe I brushed you off because I'm worried about work. Maybe I brushed you off because 3 days ago you insulted me. We need to go a little bit deeper. Usually the surface, what seems to be the problem on the surface, isn't. You need to go a little bit deeper. Humans are complex. We remember things from many years. In any relationship, the history of the relationship is present. The history of my life is present. We need to take the time to go a little bit deeper. And sometimes we need help. We need the help of a medical professional, a mental health counselor, hypnotherapist, shaman, someone who has everything together. But we need help, and we need to take this help.
As a nutritionist, how do you see the relationship between emotional wounds and the body's nutrition needs or eating habits or body health?
That's a very interesting question. I'm going to start a little bit further back. I studied nutrition because I had so many food intolerances that eating was very difficult. I was getting an allergic reaction almost through drinking water. And then I started asking my clients to change what they were eating, but not how much, but I was asking them to eat more healthy, more whole foods, not eat so much processed food. And I realized that with very anxious or very depressed people, when I took away common allergens such as anything made with gluten, wheat, too much cheese, too much dairy, within days their anxiety would go down. As I was introducing more wholesome foods, vegetables, fish, meat, poultry, tempeh, good sources of food, superfoods. And I was so surprised to see how transformed they were. People were ridden by anxiety, they were having trouble going through their day because of it, were a lot more empowered, could do so many more things. As a result, I do go through the nutritional history of my clients, and I do ask them to just keep a diary of the groups of foods that they're eating. And I do suggest some changes. Not everyone is very open to that. But I also see that some people will make those changes and they will tell me only after they have seen the good results. People are very protective of their food. We have vilified food. We have vilified people who are eating certain food, but who don't realize that we're advertising it everywhere. We're advertising, I don't want to name any companies, but we're advertising food that is very harmful for humans. And it's not just our gut, and it's not just our fat deposits that suffer, it's our brain. The more refined sugar we eat, the more high fructose corn syrup we eat, or anything that is excessively processed, our brain doesn't have power, our body doesn't have power. one system after the other is affected, and in some cases, one system after the other fails. And then we lose our mental health, we lose our physical health.
What role does nourishment beyond just food play in your healing process?
Emotional nourishment, spiritual nourishment. I help people nourish themselves through different thoughts, more loving thoughts, releasing the anger. Can you imagine how your whole brain and spirit and body is going to be immediately nourished the moment you put on the side the ton of anger you're carrying over 35 years or 30 years or 60 years? Your body will go, ah, I love you. I thank you. I feel so much more different. We are carrying a heavy suitcase or a heavy bag from the supermarket for 10 minutes and where we feel it. Our muscles are tense. Our mind cannot stop thinking about anything else other than this muscular discomfort, and we keep anticipating the moment we can put it down. Imagine carrying that pain for decades, or the anger for decades. That's how you nourish yourself, by letting go of what is unloving, what is heavy on you, and engaging in habits, in feelings and thoughts, in self-awareness that nourishes you internally and externally.
Awesome. Yeah. So you have a book coming soon.
I do.
Congratulations. Could you share us a little bit what it is about and what inspired you to write it, and what we could expect from that book?
So the book is called Why Am I Here? And it answers the reasons we're here. How can we see life from a completely different viewpoint? And how we can release anger, pain. How can we also release relationships that are not loving to us. It is my own sense of life after I've been working with clients for 30 years now. It is full of illustrations, colorful illustrations. I'm a very colorful person. I love texture and I love colors and I love shapes. Every page has an inspiring illustration, and every page has a few quotes and also explanations and expansion on that code, on those quotes, on how to do life and how to do relationships, how to understand aging, parenting, how to manifest, how to go through the challenges of life. And my absolute favorite, how to understand that life problems and pain is actually the best curriculum to go to where your soul needs to be. And it all has to do with the processing and the significance that we assign to those events in our lives.
For someone who's feeling disconnected from themselves, emotionally, physically, even spiritually, what is the one first step that you will invite them to take today?
You deserve more. But you will need to do the work to get to where you should be, where you deserve to be. Seek for a mental health counselor that also has an intuitive tool in his or her toolbox. Could be hypnotherapy, it could be shamanism, it could be Reiki, but a person who combines science and the intuitive wisdom of millennia. I would ask you, without blaming yourself, to critically see what changes you can make. Because one of the most common mistakes that humans make is that I want you to change for me to feel better. But I have no power and no control over what you're going to do. So then what do? We resort to fear. We resort to controlling others. We resort to feeling like a victim. But none of these are empowering. What is empowering is changing you. Whether you can change your behavior, whether you need to change your feelings, whether you need to change your perspective. But start with you. Yes, the people don't behave well around us. If I change the way I interact with them, or whether I interact with them at all, if I can, that will empower me, that will shift the dynamic, and that will give them a chance to change how they behave towards me, what kind of feelings they instigate. We also understand that if a relationship doesn't work, we might need to move on. Whatever relationship that is, it could be the relationship with our mother, with our father, with our siblings. When we're born into this family, it doesn't necessarily mean that our relationships are going to be loving and caring. They can. And in some cases, they can get better. But there are also some people who refuse to change. And if this is hurtful for me, I need to decide to surround myself with people that empower me, that make me feel loved, that guide me on my journey to become the greatest expression of myself, that will give me joy and bliss.
Where people can find you if they want to work with you or to know more about you?
So you can Google me. I have a website. It's www.mariamicha.com. I'm also on Instagram. You can put in the search bar my name, and I'm on Facebook, and I'm on TikTok, I'm on YouTube, and you can send me a message or an email.
Maria, thank you very much for this beautiful and insightful conversation, and for reminding us that healing is not just about fixing external things, it's about reconnecting with yourself and being in touch with your intuition and healing from the inside.
Thank you, Dr. Adri, for giving me the opportunity. I really appreciate it. I've enjoyed myself today tremendously.
And for those listening, don't forget that you can connect with Maria through her website, and she's on YouTube too and Instagram. You can connect with her in that way and send her a message. And also don't forget that she have a book coming out soon. Thank you very much for being part of this space, and if this conversation touched you, share it with someone who you think might need it. See you next time in Two Healers Podcast.
Thank you for having me. It was a real pleasure.